The Good Vibrations podcast is made possible by sponsorship from the Phoenix Light Foundation. Visit thephoenixlightfoundation.co.nz for more information.
Hello and welcome to Good Vibrations podcast. You're joining me, Phyllis Brown, here in Christchurch, New Zealand. I'd like to thank everyone for the feedback on the crystal show that I talked about last week, and a real big shout out for lovely students who've just passed the Advanced Crystal Certificate. Jarnia is going to be a guest on one of our shows later this month. So congratulations, ladies, they've got their Advanced Crystal Healing Diploma. And also to Rob, one of the online students, he has just qualified on the Crystal 101 course. So for anyone who is passionate about crystals and who'd like to really find out how to use them really properly within a healing space, you can pop on to the Phoenix Light Foundation website, click on the Crystal Healing online course, and if you use Phoenix 50, you'll receive 50% off of the course fees. So well done to all my beautiful students. It's great to have 5 people all graduate in the 1 week. It's really exciting for me, really exciting. But enough about me. I'm joined in the show this week by Angela Wratt. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Phyllis. I'm good, thank you.
Good. So just for our listener out there, I just want you just to tell them just a little bit about yourself. You know, you're a through and through Kiwi lass.
I am. I'm born and bred here in New Zealand, from the North Island, a little place called Taranaki.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up most of my life. And I guess for me, as a child growing up, I was always more into animals and nature than I was into human beings.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time, I had a dog who was called Juki, and I guess about the age of 3 years old, I realised that I could communicate.
Wow.
With animals.
At that young age?
Yeah. Him and I used to have cups of tea and dog biscuits.
Right.
And we'd have big long chats about the world. And I was always very interested in nature and how delicate insects were. And I guess from there, growing up, that got dampened down a lot from my parents, because I think it was just that belief system that, you know, that's not what you were hearing, or that wasn't, acceptable. Yeah. And so I guess for me later in life, in my teenage years, I always thought that there was more to life than what I was being shown. So from there, I guess my very first journey was Reiki.
Yeah.
And from there I've just grown and blossomed and done a lot of different healing modalities. But my biggest passion is animals.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it about animals that you're so passionate about? You know, you're an advocate for animals and their welfare. So why is that? What is it that really gets you going about being so passionate about animals in your life?
I guess for me it's just their unconditional love and their willingness to just support us through thick and thin. Not every animal gets the best of life, but they do such a huge job for us. They support us on so many levels, and I just feel that it's time people realise that, and they need to wake up to what they're really in our lives about.
So if we were to think about if someone has a pet in their home, because you and I worked on your Reiki Master Teacher training, so I took you through that many moons ago now, actually quite some time ago now when I think about it.
Yeah. Yep.
And so through your Reiki Master Teacher, you didn't want to develop healing manuals for humans, but you wanted to develop a manual which was sort of focused around animal healing and animal welfare. And one of the key things that came through for that is that the synergy of humans having a pet and not really realising what the animal is demonstrating to them. So can you just tell the listener your perspective of when an animal is in our home, what should we be looking at? You know, what is it that that animal is trying to tell us? Even some examples.
Well, I guess one of the biggest things for us is that time that we need to slow down. And so animals will be constantly in our way. They're always getting in our face. They're either tripping us up. And we don't recognise that.
No.
And so, you know, and I guess for them, because they're so much living in the moment, in the now, and they're so way sensitive to so many things, and they know so much, and it's just like they're saying, stop, listen, take note of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, is it really worth hurrying? You know, it's time to slow down. So, and the other thing that I also notice is how they support us when we're sick.
Right.
You know, they're either lying physically on our body, and, you know, take note of where they're lying on our body, you know, because they're supporting that area. You know, and that's why, as I say, they do such a huge job for us. So it's about recognition.
I know you do a lot of work with people, so people will get in touch with you and they'll say, oh, you know, I've got this dog or I've got this cat, and, you know, they're acting out, they're not behaving. So how do you cope with that when it's possibly the animal is showing some behaviour that's a reflection of the owner's behaviour?
How do you cope with that? It's a good question, and how to answer that. I guess aggressiveness would be one that animals will act out. You know, how are you being aggressively to people or to things that are going on around you? I don't know, that's quite a hard question actually.
Because I think when it comes to us having animals in our home, quite often as a pet owner we go, oh, I don't know what's up with the cat's acting strangely, or I don't know what's happening with the dog seems to be depressed.
Yeah.
Okay, but we might not then realise that we're depressed.
So it's more about the reflection of what they're showing us. I guess for me, because I work with that all the time and I see that all the time, for me, I guess it is about stepping it out and how other people would view it or see it. So I guess what I do is I try and get a person to understand their relationship that they have with their pet, and it's actually us that creates the problem. It's not the animal that's creating the problem. And so it's getting people to really think about their own behaviour and how they are affecting an animal. Yeah, because they do role play. There's no doubt about it. You know, like I have quite a large cat family.
Yes.
And so I see the dynamics of how that all goes on in my family, and how each and every cat is an individual, and how certain cats in my family have a very close bond and other cats don't, in their relationships, that they haven't been around other animals before, and so how do they integrate, or how do they act to be that? And I guess if I looked at that reflection for myself, because I'm so animal orientated, humans are hard work to me. And so if I look at that relationship that cat has with the rest of my cats, you know, I have to look at that within myself.
Yeah.
How do I relate to humans? Well, actually, I'm probably quite the same, but I'm not aggressive. I just, for me, I guess, it's just a lack of understanding, or having a lack of patience sometimes, because, you know, seeing the bigger picture of things all the time, it is harder to actually take a step back. and actually be in that energy, I guess.
Yeah. And when we've got a pet that is showing symptoms of some kind, but the vet can't quite sort of come to grips with what it is, or the symptoms rotate and change. So they might have, upset tummy one minute, but they might be sore and achy the next minute. More, they're just rotating through different symptoms. On an animal communication process, where do you start? I mean, how do you actually connect with an animal? How do you talk to them?
So for me personally, I connect on a heart level. I don't go through the person or the owner of the animal. I connect straight into the animal. I get them to show me what they're feeling within their own bodies. And the other thing is their own process of what they're doing for us is, that thing of an animal can take on our disease because that's what they've come in to do.
Okay.
And as hard as that can be sometimes, they know their purpose and they know their role. So I guess the other way I communicate with them is they give me sensations, feelings, they give me words, they give me pictures, and so I just have to expand on that because they don't talk in our language as such. It's about my interpretation of what they're trying to show me.
Okay.
Yeah, and how I talk with them.
Okay.
And some of them, each species is very different.
Yeah. So what's the easiest species to talk to?
Well, for me personally, cats.
Yeah.
I find because they're so direct and there's no black and white, they're just so, it's either this way or it's this way. Whereas dogs are like, oh yeah, we're so happy, la 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 la, life's, they're actually quite funny. I've been working with a rat recently, very different perspective on life because they're that predator. And so they're always in that mode, they're always on guard.
Are they?
Yeah, even though they're a pet,
Yeah.
They don't lose that natural instinct.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when it comes to our pets, quite often people, losing a pet it's devastating. And as you know, our family lost our beautiful two paws, and of course you've been through the same just recently. But for some people, do you feel they manifest that pet back in through having another pet? Do you feel the loss of that pet is so great that they manifest the same soul coming back into their family?
I'm not sure if I would use the word manifest personally, but I feel that if their journey's not complete with us, that they will come back in because for whatever reason, they can't be in their physical body any longer, so they need to pass over in order to come back. I have one of my own cats that's done that very thing for me, and I knew it was him. You might say, well, you might not believe in that, but believe me, when I met him, as soon as our eyes met, I knew it was him. Yes, he's in a different colour form, and he is a different cat, but it's definitely him.
Right.
And
right.
you just know that within your own soul and in your own heart.
Because I get quite a lot of clients who do the same, they have that same conversation of, I know that this is, my previous dog's come back and he's with me again, so why has he come back? So when that happens, if I'm just picking up what you've just said there, is that they haven't finished a soul level of work with that owner. Would the owner be aware of what that work would be, or would it just be the soul connection with the animal?
I feel it's probably, for people that don't have an understanding, it probably would just be that soul connection. But for those of us that are more, I guess, open-minded or have evolved more on a contractual level, there's obviously work that we need to do, and if it's there to empower us and support us, then what a wonderful gift that is. And I'm a firm believer of you can ask them to return.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, once again, it's that whole thing of people believing in that, but I think when you've had that experience. And you know when you've asked, like my own cat recently that's passed over, I have asked him to come back, but I know within myself that that's not going to be possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've had to just accept that.
Yeah.
Because I know that he's there for me in another way.
In another form.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it comes to, so our family, we've never actually went out and purchased any animals. They just land up on our doorstep. So that's how it works for us. Now, the likes of Stealth, I remember, you'll remember Stealth, the grey cat, the Quaky cat, as we called him. So it was actually a greyhound that came to me. In my mind's eye, in my dream, I had a grey greyhound, said, I'm waiting for you. When you move house, I'm there. And so I relayed to Michael this dream. He said, no, we're not having a dog. Anyway, a grey cat turned up. And I thought, oh, well, it's a grey cat, not a grey dog. Okay. And with Stealth, and then Two Paws turned up. So both these cats turned up at the same time. And I remember I watched Two Paws. They were in the garden outside my office window, and Stealth was sitting. He was very regal, very oriental looking cat, very sleek and just beautiful. And he was sitting bolt upright in that very sort of Grecian, Egyptian type repose. And Two Paws came along and he had a rabbit, because he's a great, as you know, Two Paws is a great rabbiter. And he was on his belly with this rabbit, and he's crawling towards Stealth with this rabbit. He then dropped the rabbit at Stealth's feet, and he crawled back, and then he sat up. And Stealth just sat there and looked at him, and then he picked up the rabbit, and then off he went. I've never seen behaviour like that ever. So what would that be? Is there an explanation for that?
Well, I guess they identify their own selves, as in what I mean by that is they identify, I guess, in the Maori, the mana within the being.
Yeah.
So it's that whole, I guess the role play in a family of animals, who's the top animal, because that being is more evolved. And I guess the other cat will respect, or the other dog, whatever the animal is, they learn to respect that. So I guess it's about their essence and who they are.
It was just really, really unusual. And I felt I was watching something quite privileged. I felt I was watching something that I possibly shouldn't actually have been witnessing. But because it was outside my office window, and of course I'm always taking pictures, a view from the office today, so we had a trapped rabbit by the hedge this week. There's always some animal outside our office every day. It was just that snapshot of, I think, not just a hierarchy, but there was a regal essence, I think, with Stealth. He was with us for a very, very short time, as you know, and he went into the rose fields and he just passed away. But at least he had that little snapshot of time where he was no longer a Quaky cat. I think that's what Michael always felt, that we'd given him that little snapshot of time where he could just relax and come back to self. With the quakes here in Christchurch, or any traumatic locations, so we've got war zones and all these processes, how were you involved with the quake episode here with the animals? What role did you play?
Well, what I chose to do was go and do voluntary work at a cattery and kennels, and just to help those animals that had either lost their owners or in their own way suffering from the stress, of the energy of the stress, and just telling them that it was okay and that they would find a new family if that's was what they chose. And
with the quake cats, etc. So again, you do lost and found as well. So you've helped the quake cats, and you do lost and found. And you'll phone me up. You go, here's my story of the week. So just tell the listeners just some of you've had a couple of really extraordinary lost and founds just recently. So what have they been?
Basically, they are cats that have, for whatever reason, chosen to leave their owners, and I do, we take the trade me and the pets on the net listing.
Yeah.
And so then what I do is I track back through our books to see if I can find a match, or we get the cat scanned for a microchip. So the couple that we recently did matches on had microchips. It took me a bit of tracking to find the owners, but one particular cat had been missing 6 years.
Wow.
The other one had been missing 4 years, and the people had actually moved to the North Island.
Wow.
And so when I rang the lady and said, "We've found your cat," she was like, "No, I don't believe you." And so I read all the details out, and she goes, "I don't believe you." And I said, "Well, it's your cat." And they were, the tears and the excitement, and they took him they flew him up to North Island
how awesome.
A couple of days later.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, with this whole lot, these animals, when they go missing, they're teaching us something.
Right.
You know, and as hard as that is for us, but the joy in it of finding the matches and having them reunited is just, it's awesome.
Rewarding.
Yeah.
Rewarding.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So we have a few people in our audience. Does anyone have a question about animals or animal communication? Yes, Leanne.
I've just noticed my cat's going a wee bit sort of a little bit different and acting strange, especially around full moons. What's your thoughts around all that?
Well, I guess the vibration of the moon energy, it triggers a lot for a lot, not just animals, but people. So I guess it's just that heightened awareness. And I guess for them, because they're so in tune with Mother Nature, so, they're just enjoying the energy. They're just having fun, they're just playing. We might not think that, but, I think because of their awareness around things, it's almost like for them it's an outlet, because, they work so hard for us all the time. So it's just, I guess, a joyous, creative way of doing naughty things or playing up.
Yeah, going out at the right time.
Because we can. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Beautiful. Yes.
You spoke before about animals taking on diseases from humans. Do you ever see where someone may have had several animals across their life who have reflected maybe the same disease multiple times that then is reflected in the person? I had a friend at high school whose parents' dad had, I think he'd had about 4 dogs had all died of liver cancer. And then he had liver cancer and he died quite quickly. It was very aggressive at that point. But he'd lost these 4 dogs over quite a number of years, all the same thing, and then reflected in him as well.
I guess to me, if I look at that, it's really about the lesson that the animal was trying to teach. And if they could ease the burden, that was their role to come into that person's life to do that. And that person may have needed multiple animals in order to support them through their journey as well.
Gosh, you could talk about that topic quite a lot, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's pretty big. And and that's the thing. It's what they do for us, and how they do help us. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming in. So if anyone wanted to get in touch, are looking for support for their animals, how can they contact you?
Through email.
Yes.
So that's at Angela Wratt at yahoo.co.nz.
Angela Wratt. And that's Rat with a W-R-A-T-T.
Not R-A-T.
So Angela Wratt. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
For this particular episode, I thought I would just do a little quote from Diane Fossey, who is the Gorillas in the Mist lady. That's the only way I could describe her. So she had that beautiful connection with the gorillas. So this is what she has to say. When you realise the value of all life, you dwell less on what is past and concentrate more on the preservation of the future. I think when you think about her work with the gorillas and thinking about what doesn't matter what has happened in the past, but where are we going in the future? I think for those who are looking to get a pet, then what will that pet bring into their lives? And it won't replace what they've lost in the past, but it's what it's going to bring in the future. But I think globally, again in the animal kingdom, if we can, yes, we know where we've been in the past and what we've done to the animal kingdom and what we're still doing to the animal kingdom, but how do we preserve it? How do we preserve it so that we do have that symbiotic relationship with Mother Earth and all species? There's place for all species, isn't there? Well, it's been a joy as usual, Angela, and thank you for sharing your wisdom. I'm still boggled about talking to a rat, but I'm sure that just be a little joy that you have at the moment. Absolutely superb. So many thanks for listening to us today. I hope you've enjoyed our show today, and if you do want to get in touch with Angela, it's Angela Wratt at yahoo.co.nz.
Yeah.
Remember, you can listen to our podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, and on the Phyllis Brown website, which is phyllisbrown.co.nz, and to look at our stories on Facebook and Instagram pages on Phyllis Brown NZ. We're always keen to hear from you, so you can join in our conversations on info@phyllisbrown.co.nz. And as always, I hope you've enjoyed this show. Please feel free to spread the word around, because we could all be doing with some good vibrations. Bye for now.
This podcast was brought to you by the Phoenix Light Foundation. For personal development courses, visit thephoenixlightfoundation.co.nz and use the code PHOENIX50 for 50% off all courses.